theyeshiva.net.
Moshe pulls his friend Shmuel on the phone and he gets a message from the answering machine. The message says, "You have reached my voicemail. Please, message after the tone. I decided to rethink my entire life, revisit my priorities, and make many changes in my life. If I don't return your call, this is one of the changes." This is a time of change. There's a word from Reb Simcha Binim of Pshischa, Schusa Yagan Aleinu. He asked as follows. Comes a Hol Yom Kippur. Every Jew says Al Chet and confesses their sins how many times? You have by Mincha, and the Gemara says in the beginning of the night, you have Maidiv, twice, of course Shachris, and Musaf, Mincha. And then after everything, right after Yom Kippur is over, before even you go home to eat, you daven Ma'ariv. What do we say in Ma'ariv? Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu, M'chalanu malkeinu ki fashanu. I mean, what's the sin that a Jew did between the Ila and Shmoin Esrei of Ma'ariv? For heaven's sake, he didn't even eat yet. Mela, if he ate, you could say how he ate, what he ate too much. He didn't do anything. He's standing in shul. Too much Lashon Hara couldn't happen between the Ila and Ma'ariv. Unless you're mamash an expert. If you're really good at it. But a regular person, he's sitting in his place, finished Ne'ilah, Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim, and everybody's in a rush. There's not even time for Psechilis, Lashon. What did he do already? Vasata Shegetam. Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu mechal lanu malkeinu ki fashanu. It's almost like such a pessimistic way of looking at a person. Before you sinned, we're already sure you sinned. What are you asking Hashem? What do you want forgiveness for? So Reb Simcha ben Mapshischa said, a Jew says, what's the sin at that point? He says the sin is that we don't believe that God really forgave us. That's the greatest sin. A whole Yom Kippur is finished, and you look in the mirror and you say, I'm still the same low life. I'm still the same filthy human being. You don't believe. You may believe in God, but you don't believe that God believes in you. And that's sometimes the worst sin. They tell an anecdote that there was a American family, the name was Smith. And they were very, very proud of their yichus. Not only Jews are proud of their yichus. Sometimes other people are proud of their yichus. They had great lineage. They traced their lineage back to the people who founded our country. Their ancestors came on the Mayflower, 1620, the 17th century, to the United States of America before it was the United States of America. And they hired a top researcher to write a book about their family and this great lineage. And he starts researching the family, and lo and behold, a shame on the family. What do? The researcher says, let me take care of it. Writes the book, gets it published, they open the book, and this is what he says. Great Uncle Clarence Smith, occupied a chair in a very important governmental institution. He was tied down to his position with the strongest of cords and wires and ropes. And despite all of his desires to leave, he could not tear himself away from that important chair that he occupied in this governmental institution. He sat there in the chair till his last breath. His death came as a sudden shock. Okay. So Reb Simcha ben Mapshischa says, sometimes the greatest sin in life is that you believe you're tied down to the chair with ropes. Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu. What's my sin? My sin is I'm asking you to forgive me for the fact that I believe that I always sin. That I'm a sinner, that I'm a bad person. That you could never really forgive me. That change is not really possible for me. Chidushei Harim writes, Pasuk says, and we say it a whole time in Selichos, in Kippur, Shoshana. In the Selichos we say, Pasuk from Yeshaya Hanavi, Perik Nun Hey, we say it in every fast day. Yazov Rosha Darkoi, V'yishaven Machshavoisa, V'yoshev El Hashem V'yirachameu V'alalekeinu Ki Yarba L'Sloyach. Yazov Rosha Darkoi means a Rasha, an immoral, a wicked person shall abandon his way, his derech. Ask the Chidushei Harim, Halazeh Nikra derech, Harei ze shtus. You're calling it a derech, Yazov Rasha Dark. What's the derech of the Rasha? The derech of the Rasha is that he has no derech. If he would have a derech, would doch gewen gut. He has no derech, he has no path, he has no principles by which he or she guides their life. Whatever comes up, the next impulse, the next habit, the next addiction, the next instinct, the next craving. What's Yazov Rasha Darkoi? He has a derech, he has a path. There's a psashita, the Gemara says in Soiter, Rish Lakish says, the beginning of Soiter, Ein adam over aveira elim kei nichnas by ruach shtus. Not a derech. Person sins because of a spirit of folly, of temporary insanity. What's Yazov Rasha Darka? So the Chidushei Harim says, Yazov Rasha Darka is, his derech is that he believes that he's really a Rasha. He says that's his derech. The derech is he feels this is my path. I cannot leave this path. Darka, he feels that he's really, really a Rasha. He's really doomed to this path. And he doesn't realize that with one moment he can recreate himself. He can transform himself. He's not tied down by cords. He also says, what else is Darkei? Darkei is that he believes that for Hashem he's insignificant. He's valueless. He says that's a derech. That's a derech. That guides him always. What I do doesn't matter. My life doesn't matter. My thoughts, my words, my actions. What can a shmata already accomplish this way or that way? He says he always remembers all of his negative things, and therefore he defines himself essentially as horrible innately. And the problem is he thinks it's a derech in avodas Hashem because he's full of guilt. It seems idealistic when you're full of guilt. The definition of a Jew is when you don't feel guilty, you blame yourself. And it feels very Jewish to feel guilty, and if not, to feel even more guilty for the fact that you don't feel guilty. And if you don't feel guilty, even that you don't feel guilty, then for sure you have a real problem. You must be so sick that you don't feel guilty, that you don't feel guilty, that you don't feel guilty. Now you echt feel guilty that you're so sick and you don't even know how sick you are. There was a Jewish woman came to jury duty and she got off because she told the judge that she was guilty. Somebody asked you what's the difference between an Italian mother and a Jewish mother? So I said both of them make pasta for dinner. Both of their teenage boys come home and start eating the pasta. And both 16-year-olds tell their mother, this is the worst spaghetti that has been made in the history of humanity. You won't catch me dead eating it. Even if I've been starving a week, I would not take this spaghetti into my mouth. I wouldn't feed it to my worst enemy. Both mothers shoot. The Italian mother shoots the boy and the Jewish mother shoots herself. So, Yazev Rasha Darkei, what's this derech? This derech that I'm always guilty and it feels, I'm holy. It feels like the Yetzer Tov. It's really the Yetzer Hara because it keeps you stagnated. It keeps you paralyzed. It keeps you demoralized. It keeps you depressed. V'ish oven machshavoisav. He says, what's v'ish oven machshavoisav? Oven means iniquity. Iniquity, mistakes, errors. So he says, v'ish oven machshavoisav. What's his machshava? What are his thoughts? He says his thoughts are that he's trapped forever in his thoughts. His thoughts are that he's obsessively trapped in his thoughts. In one moment, everything changes. So Reb Simcha Binim says that's the slachlon of Inike Chatonu. After you go through Elul, Selichos, Rosh Hashanah, Seisim, Tshuva, Yom Kippur, and then you turn to God and you say, but I'm still the same bum. He says, for that, you have to ask forgiveness. That's sometimes the worst sin. The worst sin is the fact that you think that you're so full of sin. You don't recognize how close you are to Him and how close He wants to be to you, and that under all circumstances you have unconditional purity and that even mistakes you can always fix. I'll tell you, there was a fellow, his name was Sir Edmund Hillary, not to confuse with the other Hillary. This was a Zohar. He was from New Zealand. I guess another way not to confuse the two. He was also a mountain climber. I guess another way not to confuse the two. I don't know if it would be good for her under the present circumstances to do mountain climbing. And he was an explorer. In 1952, he tried climbing Mount Everest, 29,000 feet. He tried. He made it close to the top, but he failed ultimately. And in England, they honored him at a dinner shortly after. Not for his success, he didn't make it to the top, but for his attempt, for his work. They gave him a lot of honor, they gave him a lot of credit, but he looked at himself and he felt like a failure for obvious reason. So he gives his speech. He finishes his speech. There was a huge portrait of Mount Everest hanging on the wall. And he finishes his speech, he goes over to the portrait and he starts speaking to the portrait. And he says, Mount Everest, you beat me. But I promise you, I will beat you. You know how I know? Because you have already grown to your full capacity. But I'm still in the middle of growing. The next year, May 29, he made it to the top of Mount Everest, 1953, the first person. that's the story. That's the story of Selichos, it's the story of Elul, it's the story of Rosh Hashanah, it's the story of Yom Kippur. Never ever say you stop growing. Mount Everest may be taller than you, but as long as you're still growing, that's what matters.
Asela ha ha, asela ha ha.
Yoel is already holding some chasteiras. Some mayim. There's a misconception that I think many of us have when it comes to the concept of Yom Hadin, the day of judgment. Zoichalim v'royadim, as the expression is, they tremble. They say the story that the Beis Halevi, Selichos days, went to wake up his son, Reb Chaim, then was a little boy, Chaim. They say it about him. Early in the morning before dawnbreak. It's one of these cold Elul mornings, and his little Chaim was under the blanket, and his father says, "Come, sit sights again, and Selichos, time to go for Selichos. 5 minutes, I want you out of bed dressed." Father comes back 5 minutes later, and of course, his little boy is sound asleep. So he wakes him up, he says, "Chaim, I don't understand you. I feel the fish in Wasser, zitteren from the Yemei Hadin. Even the fish in the water are trembling from the day of judgment that's coming upon us." He looks at his father and he says, "Tata, if the fish were wrapped up in a warm blanket, lying in bed like me, they also would not tremble." So I think we misconstrue the concept of trembling and also the concept of Yom Hadin. A person told me the worst day of the year for him is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, first worst days of the year. For some Jews, it's the only days they come to shul. We call Jews who come 3 days a year. Somebody once asked a big cardiologist, he says, "Why do Jews have a disproportionate problems with cardio, with their heart?" He says, "Because so many Jews say, 'I'm a Jew in my heart.' So all the pressure of their Judaism is in their poor heart. If they would distribute their Judaism a little bit to their arms and their legs, so there would be less pressure on their heart." But some Jews come to shul every day of the year. But Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, he told me, is the hardest day. I said, "Why is it so hard?" He says, "I don't like being judged." Who wants to be judged? I don't like being judged. And this is not just a judgment. He says, the Nesana Teikef, he has an anxiety attack. Mi yichya, mi yamus, mi bekitzoy, mi loy bekitzoy, mi ba'mayim, mi ba'eish, mi ba'cherev. And he says, the worst is the end. Tshuvo, tfilo, tzedakah, ma'avirin, samachta meshuga. So I told him, I want to try to give you a little perspective. Okay? You don't like being judged because you don't know what it means that somebody judges you. You don't understand what it means that God judges you. Let me tell you what it means. Imagine I told them that the one who judges you knows everything about you, knows all your trauma, knows all your pain, knows all your anxiety, knows much more than I what you have been through. This guy has been through a lot, trust me. He's been through a lot. I said, you're used to shmegegis, forgive me, judging you. They know nothing about you. They look at you and they don't like how your yarmulke is situated on your head. They don't like what your shirt looks like. They don't like how you tucked in. And they don't like what you look like. So they judge you. But imagine you had somebody in your life who judged you based on everything that exists within you. Your past, your chemistry, your physiological, physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual makeup. Knows everything you have endured, knows every scar on your body, and every scar on your psyche and every scar on your soul. Knows the home you grew up in, knows all the stories, knows all the experiences, and knows how not only your conscious, but also your subconscious. And this one, also one more thing, is absolutely crazy about you. Loves you to pieces. Is infatuated in love with you. I said, how would you feel that such a guy judges you? He says, it would feel good. I said, so that's what happens Rosh Hashanah. That's what happens Rosh Hashanah. Ki hu yada yitzreinu. You know what ki hu yada yitzreinu means? Ekendan yetzahara. He knows everything. You know yourself very deeply. Imagine somebody who knows you as well and even deeper and better. And he judges you. You want such a person to judge you. You want such a being to judge you. That's who should be judging you. Who do you want to judge you? You want Obama to judge you? You want Trump to judge you? I don't want to pick sides. You want Clinton to judge you? Who do you want to judge you? Who do you want to judge you? You want your shviga to judge you? She does it anyway, it's fine. So he says, if so, Rosh Hashanah is a day of celebration. I said, no kidding. It is. Ki toiv hayoim la'adeinenu, Ezra says. You could look it up and say for the Nehemiah, Ki toiv hayoim la'adeinenu. It's a Yom Tov. Yom Shana is a Yom Tov. So you have to understand who's judging you. Somebody who cares for you, somebody who loves you, and somebody who knows everything. Everything is taken into account. I want such a one to judge me. That's the only one I want to judge me. And it's good to be judged by such an entity. It's good for somebody to judge you and see what this person needs this year based on who he or she really is. And I said, and it gets even better. The Son of Toikif is seen by many as a very dreadful prayer. Very dreadful. For obvious reasons. But I think there's a point that people don't realize what the Son of Toikif is really saying. What the Son of Toikif is really saying is that Hashem says, I'm the only one who decides what's going to happen to you this year. Nobody else. Don't think ISIS controls the world. And don't think Al-Qaeda controls the world. And even though they create havoc, untold havoc, catastrophe, tragedy, bloodshed, the only one who decides what's going to happen with you this year is me. And I love you infinitely, and I'm here for you forever. And the love is unconditional. And the only way I judge you is by knowing who you really, really are, not by anything else. I know you with all your innocence. I know you with all your purity. I know you with all your pain. So I want you to know that the only one who will decide your fate this year, your destiny this year, is me. Nobody else, nothing else. No doctor, no physician, no individual, just me. I have emissaries in this world, but it's me. So I said, when you read in the Son of Toikif, don't see it as a dreadful prayer. See it as a loving prayer. Somebody who says, I'm here with you, I'm here for you. I'm the one who judges you. Nobody else's judgment counts. And I really know you. And when I decide what should happen to you, it's coming from a place of the one who knows everything about you. And therefore it's taking into consideration your ultimate and truest self, past, present, and future.
Ya Kadosh Baruch Hu, אנחנו אוהבים אותך, heilige Beschäfer, die hast den Zazoli. Hoi heilige Beschäfer, wir haben den Zazoli. Heilige Beschäfer, die hast den Zazoli. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, אנחנו אוהבים אותך. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, אנחנו אוהבים אותך. Heilige Beschäfer, wir haben dir Azayli. Heilige Beschäfer, die hast dich Azayli. Kadeshayni, b'mitzvah secho, b'saincha kaini, b'saydo secho, tzavayni, mittevecho, b'sawachayni, b'shua secho. Kadeshayno, b'mitzvah secho, b'saincha kaino, b'saydo secho, tzavayno, mittevecho, b'sawachayni, b'shua secho. V'ta'eli beino, v'yavdecho v'yemet. V'ta'eli beino, v'yavdecho v'yemet. V'ta'eli beino, v'yavdecho v'yemet. V'ta'eli beino, v'yavdecho v'yemet. Oy v'ta'eli beino, v'yavdecho v'yemet. V'ta'eli beino, v'yavdecho v'yemet. Oy heilige Beschäfer, wir haben dir Azayli. Heilige Beschäfer, die hast dir Azayli. Oy heilige Beschäfer, wir haben dir Azayli. Heilige Beschäfer, die hast dir Azayli. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Yone monecho yatovini, one monecho yatovini, one monecho yatovini, one monecho yatovini. Dalakovini, dalakovini, Devon Masam say Yakodesh Borach Yiti. 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 Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Wir sind deine Kinder, die wir sind der Tate. Oh ja, Kadosh Baruch Hu, אנחנו אוהבים אותך. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, אנחנו אוהבים אותך. Bye bye. אוהבים אותך, הקדוש ברוך הוא, אנחנו אוהבים אותך, heilige Shefer, wir haben dir adoilim, heilige Shefer, die aus dem adoilim, heilige Shefer, wir haben dir adoilim, heilige Shefer, die aus dem adoilim, L'day lebeino, li'yomdecha beyemer, L'day lebeino, li'yomdecha beyemer, L'day lebeino, li'yomdecha beyemer, L'day lebeino, li'yomdecha beyemer.
I always wondered, we say in the Machzer that when the Kohen Gadol came out of Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur, before he came out to the public, Haya Omer Tefillah Ktsara, he used to daven a little short tefillah, not long, so people shouldn't get scared that he never made it out, a short tefillah. So imagine he just went into the Holy of Holies once a year, and it's a one-paragraph tefillah. And you would think in that tefillah would be compressed some of the fundamental requests of Klal Yisrael. So there's a few things there. He says, Lo yad shiltim be Yehuda, the rulership should not leave Malchus Yehuda. In other words, the Jewish people should remain intact in their homeland with their own leadership, their own government. He asks, Lo yitztarchu amcha Yisrael, parnasa, people shouldn't be poverty-stricken. They should have the livelihood they need. He speaks about the rain, but then he asks, he says, Leitapil isha pribitna. No woman should have a miscarriage. He doesn't ask that nobody should fall ill. He doesn't ask that all those who are ill should become healthy. He doesn't ask people shouldn't die. He says a woman should not miscarry. He doesn't even ask people who are infertile should have children. Okay, it's a short tefillah. He can't ask for everything. But this is what he asks for. Leitapil isha pribitna. The fruit of her womb should not fall, should not die. Khalil. Why this one from all of them? It's an important request, but it seems in the context of many other requests around this theme, more frequent, more common, he doesn't even address. So everybody knows, Rosh Hashanah, we say many times, Hayoim haras olam. So if you look in an English Machzer, translation is, Hayoim haras olam. Hayoim haras olam. Today is the birthday of the world. Today is the anniversary of creation. Adam and Chava were created. Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world. Frek Davud Raham. Rabbeinu David Avud Raham was one of the Rishonim, and he wrote a commentary on the Siddur. And Avud Raham asks the following question. He says, Haras doesn't mean birth. You know what Haras means? Haras means pregnant. Vatahar Leah. Ki isha hora. Hiroyan means pregnancy. In fact, the word Haras Olam comes from a pasuk in Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah Hanavi says, cursed is the day that I was born. I wish I would have never been born. I would have remained in my mother's womb, Haras Olam Rachma. I would have remained eternally pregnant in my mother's womb. In other words, I would have been a dead, stillborn baby. Haras Olam Rachma. To stay pregnant forever. Yirmiyah curses, bemoans the day that he emerged into this world. Yirmiyah Hanavi. Frek Davud Raham. How did the Chazal take a pasuk in Yirmiyah and transform the meaning? Olam over there means eternal, and they turned it into the world. Because Olam could mean forever, Olam could mean the universe. Haras in the original means pregnant, and they turned it into birthday. Hayoim Haras Olam, today is the birthday of the world. And why would they do such a thing? Pasuk means forever pregnant, and they said today is the birthday of the world. Avud Raham's question. One of the answers, my dear holy friends, brothers and sisters, is this. This is exactly what they were trying to say. Haras Olam means eternally pregnant, and Haras Olam means the birthday of the world. And who decides which interpretation will reign supreme in your life this Rosh Hashanah? Who decides that? You have to decide that. Haras Olam, will I remain eternally pregnant? Or Haras Olam, will I at last emerge? Will I be born? How many people do you know who are eternally pregnant? Symbolically, of course, I mean. Pregnant with ideas, with dreams, with yearnings, with aspirations, with desires, with deep emotions. But it remains pregnant forever. It never emerges. It never comes to fruition. It never comes to realization. Their potential remains dormant and latent. Haras Olam Rachma, for eternity, until finally the fetus dies away. So Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol came out of Kodesh HaKadoshim, what did he ask for? Lo isapil isha pri bitna. So many Jews, it comes a new year. You know people, you know yourself. In your soul, you have so many dreams, so many potentials, so many possibilities. But as a result of fear, as a result of insecurity, as a result of addiction, as a result of various experiences and circumstances, you remain pregnant forever. Hayoim Haras Olam. Let it be the birthday of your world, not the eternal pregnancy of all your potentials and dreams. You say that the Netziv, Rabbeinu Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, who was the Rav and the Rosh Yeshiva of the Volozhin Yeshiva in Belarus, in Volozhin, at the completion of one of his great works, one of his great books in Halacha, he made a mesibah. He made a celebration. And he was addressing his students from the Volozhin Yeshiva. And the Netziv said, I want to tell you a little bit about my background, myself. I did not do well in yeshiva. I did not do well in school. I had like what they call today a verstopte cup. And I was told that I had a verstopte cup. There's never a shortage of smart people who tell you when you have a verstopte cup, which means a plugged brain. Came by bar mitzvah, he says, the Netziv says. I went to sleep one night and I hear my father talking to my mother. Father tells my mother, I tried everything. It's not an Indian a boy should waste his life. Tomorrow I'll take him to a carpenter. He'll become an apprentice of a carpenter and support himself with dignity. He'll build beautiful stenders, beautiful aron kodeches, beautiful tables and chairs, beautiful bookcases, mitte, shulchan, kissim, and noira. The system wasn't then that 13. You had to kvetch a buying for the next 10 years, even if you were doing nothing. I can't see my boy doing nothing. He's 13 years old. We tried. Let him become an apprentice of a carpenter. He's good with his hands. The Netziv says, I'm lying in bed and I can hear my mother's pain. My mother tells my father, let's try a little more. It seems like he has something inside. Father said, I tried. How many years are you going to try? Sometimes you have to say, he is destined to be a carpenter. Tziv gets out of bed. He says, I got out of bed. I went in. And I said, Father and Mother, I overheard the conversation. Let me try once more. My father says, his name was Naftali Tzvi Yehuda, so they called him Herschel. Herschel, he's a little boy. He tried for years. It's not a bad thing. Every person has a different shlichus in this world. Every person has a different mission in this world.
Some of the greatest were carpenters. That's what God wants from you, it's fine. He says, Father, I'm happy to be a carpenter, but I think I could be matzliach. Give me another chance. He says, one more day. One more day you'll be by your teacher. Let's see what happens. The Tziv says the next day, I decided finally to show some interest. And the rest is history. So the Netziv tells the students, and let me tell you why I did it. I thought to myself, I'll make for a very good carpenter. But after 120 years, I'll come up to heaven. And the Ribbono Shel Olam asks every person, what did you do in this world? And I'll say, God, look at my stenders. Look at my tables. Look at my candelabras. Look at my carpentry. Look at my beautiful bookcases, mahogany, cedar, a gewalt shebegewalt. And God will say, psst, Shane, but I have one question. Vu is the Hamek Davar? That's the commentary of the Netziv on Chumash. Vu is the Imrei Shefer? That's the commentary of Netziv on the Haggadah. Vu is the Hamek Sheila? That's the commentary of the Netziv on the Sheiltas, the Reb Achai Goin. Vu is the Eimek HaNetziv? That's the commentary of the Netziv on the Sifri. And I knew I wouldn't have an answer to the question. So not long ago, somebody told me there was a Choshev at Litvischer Rosh Yeshiva. And he's talking to his students who are kvetching the bank. They're sitting on a bench for many years. And he tells them the story. And then he says, when you come up to heaven, God is going to turn to you guys and say, so what do you do? He said, we sat in yeshiva and kollel for 30, 40 years. God says, that's beautiful, but I have one question. Wo is the stender? Wo sein the shich? Where's the bench? Where's the table that you were supposed to build? You have to be honest with yourself and with your children even more. Hayoim haras olam. Rosh Hashanah, you have to decide, will you remain pregnant with ideas, with dreams, with potentials, or will you finally be born? And what's stopping you from being born? Is it fear? Is it pain? Is it anxiety? Is it cynicism? Is it the need to please others? That's why so many people are never born. They're afraid to be born. You know why? Because if you're not born, nobody ever has anything to say about you. We don't talk about fetuses in the womb. Once you're born, oy gewalt. Now you already make a mess. Now we have to change your diapers. Now you already have a different situation. So people, it's easier not to be born. So there used to be in Europe a circus. It's not around anymore. A circus of bugs, of fleas. Familiar? It's a very interesting circus. They would have fleas doing races. But how do you train a flea? You know a flea, a tiny bug, flies away. How do you train a flea? Mariam Bates says there's no tzeder, you can't trap a bird if there's no roof. That's even a bird, a flea, flies away. So I read once the way they used to train these fleas. I'll tell you why the circus stopped, because these fleas have to eat 30 times a day, and the owner of the circus had to provide the food. And you know what the food for fleas is? His blood. So he had to have them on his body, sucking his blood. So ultimately, it wasn't such a batam to parnasa. Let's put it that way. It was batam for the fleas, but it wasn't it wasn't that tasty for the owner of the circus. How do you get fleas under control? How do you get bugs under control? So this is what they did. You could research it. They would take a glass lid, a glass box with a glass lid on the top, put in the bugs, put in the fleas into the box. What does a bug do when it's in a box? Tries to get out, bangs its head. People usually learn faster, but bugs, it takes a little more time. So the flea is flying up, boom, 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 boom. Say it's 10 inches high. After 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 or 4,000 times, it bangs its head. Each time it flies up, it learns not to fly higher than 10 inches. Because if it flies higher than 10 inches, it's going to get a boo-boo in the kepala, a boo-boo in the head. After it learns that, he opens the lid, takes out the flea, and it will never fly higher than 10 inches. It will always remain below 10 inches. Why? The sky is the limit. The answer is the flea is a prisoner. A prisoner to what? A prisoner to its own beliefs. A prisoner to its own belief that I can't fly higher. From so many years or months or days or weeks or hours of experiencing that when I fly high, I get hurt. The flea is a prisoner to its own belief system that it can't fly. There's no objective barrier. There's no objective mania preventing the flea from flying high. But you're a prisoner to your own belief. How many people experience the same challenge? Because at a certain point in your life, there was a lid over your head. And when you tried to fly the first time when you were 4 years old, somebody said something. And now 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, you still won't go higher than 10 inches. Not because somebody's holding you back, because you're a prisoner to your own beliefs that you can't go higher. So Hayoim Haras Olam, they took those two words. You have to make a decision. Will you remain eternally pregnant? Or Loisap Elisha Pribitna? One of the greatest tragedies is that people look at themselves and they say, Mi ani umani. Who am I? What am I? I'm impotent. I'm infertile spiritually. And even if I'm pregnant, I could never bring it out. So everybody knows the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Peidalet, Rish Lakish, who's the master, the one who taught us about Tshuva in the end of Maseches Yuma. Rish Lakish, the Gemara says, was a gangster, a muscular gladiator. One day, Rabbi Yochanan, the Gadol Ador, the greatest Jew of the generation, the editor of Talmud Yerushalmi, one of the greatest Amoraim, the first generation of Amoraim, is bathing in the Jordan River in the Yarden. And Rish Lakish sees Rabbi Yochanan, and the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan's beauty was unsurpassed. So what does he do? He jumps into the Jordan right near Rabbi Yochanan. Why? Just to understand who Rish Lakish was. Most of the Mefarshim say he wanted to do something very inappropriate with Rabbi Yochanan. According to many Mefarshim, Mishkav Zachar or other things. Understand who Rish Lakish was. Powerful man. One jump, he's in the river near Rabbi Yochanan who's bathing. What would you say if you were Rabbi Yochanan to this man? You might look at him and say, Rasha! Chayira, which is what he was, basically. What does Rabbi Yochanan tell him? 2 words. Chelach lo iraisa. Such power belongs to Torah. Your power belongs to Torah. Such power. This is what Torah needs. This is what you need. This is what your power needs. Rish Lakish was no fool. He looks at Rabbi Yochanan and says 2 words. Shufreich lenashim. Your beauty belongs to women. You're telling me I'm in the wrong job. I'm telling you you're in the wrong job. A fellow like you should leave the Beis Medrash. You could do much better for yourself with your beauty. So what does Rabbi Yochanan tell him? You think I'm beautiful? You should see my sister. And if you turn your life around, I will suggest my sister to marry you. Rish Lakish takes him up on his offer. He becomes his brother-in-law. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish remain the 2 greatest giants of the generation. Anyone who learns Gemara knows. Frequently, you'll be studying the debates, the conversations, the shmaitzes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. I want to ask you a question. What impressed Rish Lakish so much that he should turn around his life while he's in the Jordan River, standing near Rabbi Yochanan? What did Rabbi Yochanan say? Chelach lo iraisa. Your strength belongs to Torah. And he says your beauty belongs to women. So some people misunderstand the Gemara. They say, because he wanted Rabbi Yochanan's sister. If he's so beautiful, his sister's even more beautiful. But now I ask you another question. Rabbi Yochanan was so cruel. When your sister has to get married, what do? You drive every shadchan meshuga. You interview them for months. You speak to every Rosh Hashiva, every Mashgiach, every shadchan, Rosh Tevis, Sheker, Doiver, Kesef, Noitel. Speaks lies and takes money. You research, you scrutinize, and if you find out that at 14 something else, that's not for me. My daughter, special. We know your daughter is impeccable, flawless. That Bach, no, I need the perfect person. Rabbi Yochanan, this guy jumps into the river to basically do something to violate him in a very chiyuv misa, arayas. Besides the lack of humanness, this is a crime of the highest level. Whether he thought he was a woman or he thought he was a man, both. He's going to become your brother-in-law? You're going to give your sister to him? But I want to know Rish Lakish. Why did Rish Lakish turn around his life? It turned out to be a good shidduch. What happened to Rish Lakish? This is the whole story. You don't have to know much more when it comes to education. Rabbi Yochanan had a tviyas eye, and he had an eye, he had a perception, he had a perceptiveness. He looked at Rish Lakish and he saw Haras Oilam. He saw this man is so powerful, so deep, so profound. He saw Haras Oilam, he saw what lay in him, he saw his potential. And he knew this potential can die forever. When he said, Chelach lo iraisa, your power could go to Torah, he meant it. But he wasn't just saying it, he really meant it. When he told Rish Lakish, I will give you to my sister, you know what Rish Lakish heard? Rish Lakish says to himself, this is how he believes in me? This is how he believes in me? A thief, a gangster, a mafioso. I was the boy who was diagnosed at the age of 6 with having every learning disability in the world. I was thrown out from 9 yeshivas. At the age of 11, I was already after 9 yeshivas. At 12, I was already in the mafia. I was already a gladiator. And he believes in me to the point he's ready to suggest me to my sister. Rabbi Yochanan allowed Rish Lakish to believe in himself because he saw how Rabbi Yochanan believed in him. Chelach lo iraisa. And he made sure he wouldn't be pregnant anymore. With potential, his potential would be born. And that's why the first thing, Yom Kippur, the first thing you have to say Yom Kippur. Before anything, what do you say? You say Kol Nidre. What's Kol Nidre? Nidrana. La Nidre. V'yesarana la esare. Ushvuasana la shvuas. My promises are no promises. My pledges are no pledges. My oaths are no oaths. That's how you go into Yom Kippur. Hataris Nadorim. You nullify all the pledges for the next year. I now want to ask you a Shaila Tayiriyid. That's the opening of Yom Kippur. Why is that the holiest prayer in the year? It's not even a prayer. It's a legal statement where you're basically telling me that I shouldn't take anything you say seriously for the next year. Okay. Welcome to the club. Another honest man. Yom Kippurim za'ad Yom Kippurim haba aleinu l'toiva shvikin shvisim teilin mevuyon lo shirin v'lo kayam. There was once a guy who was working for somebody, and he fired him. He says, all the deals you made, you nullified. He says, the first thing is, I never made the deal. The second thing is, even if I made it, you misunderstood me. And And the third thing is, even if I made it and you understood me, I changed my mind. Okay, so we don't want this to happen. So Yom Kippur, you make a declaration in front of the whole shul. Your promises mean nothing. Okay, it's a good idea. You shouldn't transgress the prohibition of violating a neder. But this is the peak of Yom Kippur, the holiness of Yom Kippur. The song of Kol Nidrei is stirring, it's heart-stirring. Everyone is evoked from the song. I once told somebody, once told a crowd, I said, why don't you do the song with English words? You'll help me out. All my promises and vows and pledges and commitments and oaths. And then you go on. And you finally reach the peak. Kol Nidrei, Mahal Shen Yom Kippur. Wie geht es? Nidrana lo nidrei. Okay, in English. My promises are no promises. Where is he? Rabbi Yid, Kol Nidrei. My promises are no promises. And my pledges are no pledges. And my oaths are no oaths. Wow, that's inspiring. From this Yom Kippur till next Yom Kippur, I nullified, absolved, obliterated, loshidin, completely with no authority. It doesn't exist. It's the music and the lyrics, I'm sorry, but they don't match. It's a mazel that it's in Aramaic, so nobody understands what they're saying. But anybody who reads it in English, something off. There's something off. Every year we do the same thing. And it reached a crescendo. Don't take anything I say seriously. I got it. But what's the depth of the inspiration? So the Baal HaTanya says something very powerful in Likutei Torah and Parshas Matos. So what he says, you come into Yom Kippur, everybody is full with nedarim, with promises. You know what type of promises? There are good promises you make, but there are also other promises. There are oaths, there are promises that I tell myself, I can't do this. Why can't you do it? Because I made a promise when I was 6 years old, I will never try again. Because I made a promise when I was 9 years old, I'm never going to trust. Because I made a promise when I was 12 years old, subconsciously, I'm never going to love. Because I made a promise when I was 16 years old, I will never ever allow myself to be backstabbed again. And I remain tied up in my shackles. I remain tied up by my ropes, by my cords. Promises, oaths. I swear I will never ever be who I really am. I can't. But the pasuk says in Parshas Matos, V'shama avio es nidro. Everybody has a little daughter in them. And everybody has a little girl, a little boy in them that makes promises. What does a father do? He says, V'shama avio es nidro ki heini avio isa. He says, the love that a father has to a daughter makes her feel so powerful that she could let go of all the things that tie her down, because there's so much pain that ties people down, anxiety, trauma. I can't take away your trauma, but I could make you feel that you're more powerful than your trauma. How? By loving you unconditionally. When I love you unconditionally, so you feel, and you ask yourself, why does this person love me? What's in it? What's in me? I'm so worthless. And then you learn that you're more powerful than all of your chains. You're more powerful than all the things that hold you down. You have scars, but you're more powerful than them. How do you learn that? Because the Father loves you. Your Father loves you unconditionally. That's the only way you could let people go out of their chains. Tell them to go out of their chains. They don't want to be there. You think your daughter wants to be in chains? You think your boy wants to be in chains? You think people want to be in chains? They would love to be free. They don't know how to. Ein chavush matir atzmo. A prisoner can't go out. Don't tell me to go out of my chains. Empower me. How do you empower me? Only one way. You can't empower me by telling me how bad I am in my chains, I know. And you can't empower me by telling me what a horrible life I have in my chains. Thank you, I know better than you. The only way you can empower me is if you could show me what exists in me. If you could look at me and say, Chelach li'oraisa. And you could make me believe in that Chelach li'oraisa. When Reish Lakish heard that, he transformed his whole life. This is what Rabbi Yochanan thinks of me. First time anybody ever told Reish Lakish that he was a giant. Everybody told him he was a midget, not physically, spiritually. So you come in Yom Kippur, the first thing you have to say, Nidirana la nidrei. Nidirana la nidrei. Vesarana la esarei ushvosana la shavuos. The first thing you have to say is that all the promises, all the pledges, all the oaths that I made, that I'm this and I'm not this, I can't be this, I can't, I'm not allowed to, I have to be miserable, I have to have conflict in my home, I can't have a good relationship with my children, there can't be shalom bayis by me, I have to be full of anxiety, I can't take a stand, I can't take responsibility for my life, I can't talk to my father, I can't talk to my mother, I can't fully be. Nidirana Yom Kippur, you sense the awesomeness of your soul. And when you sense the awesomeness of your soul, you realize you're more powerful than all your shackles. Nidirana lo nidrei vesarana lo esawawarei. You hear the journey of life. But now you can get stuck there. Don't get stuck in the low part. That's the koyach of a soul. A chelek elekami mal, invincible like God. Now you could say shechiyonu, v'kimonu, v'giyonu lizman hazeh. Now you could say shechiyonu. To put it differently, if I come to you and I ask you, do you know yourself? You say, for sure. Could you swear that you know yourself? For sure. Tell me who you are. You tell me who you are. Swear that this is who you are. You could swear. Suddenly Yom Kippur comes and you feel that who you thought you were is not really who you are. You're so much better. You're so much deeper. But you swore yesterday that this is who I am. I am this. So what's the first thing you have to say? All my oaths are worthless. I bless you, I bless me, I bless all of our people, I bless the world. That this year, Haras Olam should not be eternally pregnant. Haras Olam should be the birthday of the world. Ayoy maras oilom, ayoy mi'ayoy b'mishpat, kol yitzirei yom v'oilomim, ayoy ra 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 ra, So my dear friends, Tayeri Yidden, the Rambam says in Hilchis Tshuva Perek Beis, what's Tshuva, Ezei Tshuva Gemura, what's real Tshuva, Yoyid Alav, Yoidea Talumas, Shliyashav Lazah Chet La'olam. That the knower of secrets can testify that you're never going to return to this sin. Now I ask you a question, who can do Tshuva Gemura? It's like saying I'm going on a diet and Hashem knows you're never ever going to eat a piece of cake again. Who's going to go on a diet? Echad meir, shnayim, one in a generation. You're never, ever going to touch it again. Chidush Harim says, Gewaldige Wort. Everybody knows the Gemara in Baba Kama, the Rambam in Hilchas Gzeila, La Halacha, and Shulchan Aruch as well, in Chosher Mishpat, the laws of thievery. Pasuk says, V'heisha v'sagzeila asher gozal. So the Gemara says, Meshalem kishas agzeila. You have to pay back that which you stole. So if I steal your iPhone, I got to give you back your iPhone. But what happens if there was a shinui? What happens if that which you stole you can't return anymore? Lokach eitzim v'shipon avonim v'sisison. You sculpture the rocks, you change it, you can't give back what you took. You redesign the wood, you can't bring it back to that original position. So the halach is you pay the money, you pay the value of what you took, you don't pay the object itself. This is all if you can't give back the original. What if you could give back the original? For example, I steal a beam, I steal a brick, I put it into my house. So b'daraisa, you have to destroy your house and give back the brick, because you could give back the original. It's called shinui hachozer libriyasa, a change that can be restored back to its original. But the Chachamim said you don't have to. Why? Mipnei takonas hashavim. They knew Yankel is sitting, he wants to do tshuva erev Yom Kippur, he wants to give you back the beams that he stole. He looks up at his beautiful home and he says to himself, I want to do tshuva, but I'm not destroying my house. Now he's going to give up. Takonas hashavim, you wanted to motivate people to do tshuva, you say even if it's a shinui hachozer libriyasa, even if it could be restored back to its original position, you don't have to give back that which you stole, just pay back the money. Says the Chidush Harim, the same is true spiritually. When a person sins, they stole. They stole from Hashem, they stole from themselves, they stole from their chelik elikam imal. The world belongs to Hashem. A person's life belongs to Hashem. When a person lies, a person behaves in an inappropriate way, they stole the koiches that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave them. They stole the money, the resources, the life that Hashem gave them. They stole the identity, the energy, the potential. They stole and they used it for something that is inappropriate, contrary to the owner's design, contrary to their own true design. So what's the halacha? They stole their body, they stole their soul, they took it out from the rishus of the Borei Olam. That's what Aveira means. Aveira means you were ma'ivir mi rishus le rishus. You transfer it from one domain to another domain. What's the halacha? The halacha is you got to give it back. Unless there's a shinui, unless it's changed. So the Rambam says, what type of change? Shalayashav lazeh hachet la'olam. Shinu she'ein chayiz libriyasai. It never will go back. That change, that's tshuva. Yecheskel says, "La yachpetz b'moisa meiskim b'shuva midarkei v'choya." Doesn't want to take you back. He wants a change, and if you change, you don't have to give it back. You're fine. Live v'choya. You don't have to give back your body and soul. But what type of change? A real change, irreversible change. This is midat Torah. What did the Chachamim say? Takonas hashavim. If you're going to demand that change, it's not going to work. B'pnei takonas hashavim, they said, any change works. Scharav is tzedakah, because they're still looking for a nickel to be able to give him and send him where he belongs. There's a lesson here. People call our generation of Jews hypocrites. It's not true. Our generation of Jews are not hypocrites. That's our problem. Many Jews say, I'm not a hypocrite. Because I'm not a hypocrite, unless it's real, it's real. If it's not real, it's not real. If it's a shinui she'ein chayiz libriyasai, good. But if it's a reversible change, why should I begin? Takonas hashavim is, don't look at your life in an extreme fashion. I'm good, I'm bad. Every dent matters. Every change is significant. Every movement is powerful. And every call means something. Never underestimate one action, one gesture, one thought, one word. Look at Mr. Schwartz. He gave one lousy nickel to a homeless fellow January night in 91, and he's still enjoying it. That's what the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, to look at yourself and the world as a scale. Asa mitzvah achas, hichriya atzmai v'eskalolam l'kula l'kavschos. The way a person should imagine his life. That one action, one word, one thought, I tip a scale. The way a person should imagine the significance. It's not the guilt. It's the significance. It's the value of a person's life. But now I ask you a question. Why is it that we don't appreciate, not in ourselves and not in others, small actions? Why is it? Imagine anybody who knows anything about Kiruv knows a young Jewish boy or Jewish girl completely alienated to Judaism. They show up Yom Kippur to the shul, and what does the rabbi say? Wow, it's so nice to have you. Thank you for coming. You know where he was the night before Yom Kippur? You know where he's going the night after Yom Kippur? Of course you do. But he came Yom Kippur. Wow, so nice to have you. You came for Shabbos. Thank you for coming for Shabbos. Your own child also came for Shabbos. Also came in for Kol Nidri and Ne'ilah. What's the question? Where were you? Where were you for Mincha? Where were you yesterday? Where? Why don't you appreciate what is? Why do you only criticize what's not? Why don't you appreciate what is? Why don't you celebrate success stories? Why always criticize what's missing? There's nothing positive. Why always only what's missing? Shinui ha-chozer libriyosei takonos ha-shovim. Take it away. Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem Beredam, 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 bam, bye, 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 bye. Come by, everybody, you could wake up. You could wake up. Ay, 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 bye, 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 bye. Ay, bye, 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 ya, bye, ay, Hashiveinu Hashem Benashuvacha Let me leave you with this verse. People don't realize how much anxiety they have because of broken relationships, because of fragmented relationships. You see, when you're not speaking to your brother, or you're not on speaking terms with your sister, or with your mother, or with your aunt, or with your uncle, or with your old partner, or with your child, or your nephew, or your old chavrusa, or your old colleague, or your old neighbor, you think you're over it, but you're usually not. You have a scarred soul. And what it does is, it doesn't allow you to be free. It doesn't allow you to give birth to your dreams, because a part of you is locked up. So if you want a genuine slichus, you want a genuine Rosh Hashanah, tomorrow morning or the next day is also fine. And if you don't want to wait till Tuesday, Yom Shlishi, Shehuch B'Bay Kitayv, knock yourself out, fine. You should pick up a telephone. Don't text. Texting is a false facade for people who can't communicate. Face to face is always best. Email, shvacha maises. Do it the old way. The real old way is face to face. The semi-old way is a telephone. I'm not telling you to use a rotary phone, even though it's better. But you pick up a phone, or you meet the person. If you can't meet them, they're in London or in Israel or wherever they are in Brooklyn. You pick up a phone. People think they don't make up with people because they're strong. We don't make up with people because we're weak. If you're really strong, you will not melt from saying I'm sorry. If you're weak, you think you'll melt from saying I'm sorry. What happens if they were wrong and you said I'm sorry? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They'll think that you were wrong. Okay. You're so weak that if somebody thinks you're wrong, you melt, you stop existing. The reason we don't make up is not because we're strong, it's because we're weak. When you realize that you're bigger than that, you're larger than carrying a fight and a grudge for 5 years, 10 years, you make up, you reach out, you apologize, you ask mechila, you say I'm sorry, and you'll see that you will let your soul go free. A gut gebencht Jahr.
Rachmonu shazeh, Rachmonu recham Allah, Ashto bagulo v'zman koreh. Rachamonu
Hashem Melech Oven Yashuva Halesh Yomeinu Yomeinu Oy Hashivayinu Hashem Melech Hashem Melech Oven Yashuva Halesh Yomeinu Yomeinu Hashivayinu Hashem Melech Hashem Melech Hashem Melecho, Hashem Melecho, v'noshuva, Yomeinu, Kadesh Yomeinu, Kedem, Hashiveinu, Hashem Melecho, Hashem Melecho, v'noshuva, Kadesh Yomeinu, Yomeinu, Kedem, Oy, Hashiveinu, Hashem Melecho, Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu Kedushim Yalla! Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu Yomeinu Kekedem Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu, Yomeinu Kekedem Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu, Yomeinu Kekedem Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu, Halesh Yomeinu Kadesh Yomeinu Kekedem Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu Yomeinu Kekedem Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu Yomeinu Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu Yomeinu Kekedem Hashiveinu Hashem Melecho v'noshuva Halesh Yomeinu Halesh Kadishameinu, Kadishameinu Kedem.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.